Humanity is currently infected with a beautiful, desperate delusion. Every single night, we look up at the vast and empty night sky, pointing our fragile telescopes at distant, cold pinpricks of light. And we tell ourselves a comforting lie. We tell ourselves that a second Earth is out there, just waiting for us to arrive. We imagine lush, green fields bathing under the warm glow of alien suns. We picture crystal-clear rivers flowing endlessly through uncharted, majestic valleys, and we dream of colossal, domed cities shining in the dark like ultimate beacons of human triumph. We have invented comforting names for these imaginary sanctuaries. We call them habitable zones. We call them Goldilocks planets. But in the cold, unforgiving, and brutally mathematical reality of astrophysics, the term habitable is perhaps the most terrifying and deceptive lie our species has ever told itself. The universe was never designed to harbor human life. It is not a cradle. It is a vast, infinitely expanding, interconnected system of cosmic slaughterhouses. Every single planet, every frozen moon, and every rogue asteroid we have ever seriously considered colonizing is, in reality, a uniquely designed execution chamber. If we want to survive the inevitable and approaching death of our own world, we will not be stepping into a welcoming paradise. We will be willingly locking ourselves inside the most extreme, suffocating, and hostile prisons that nature has ever created. Today, we are going to explore the horrific, undeniable reality of every single world we could possibly attempt to colonize. We are going to permanently strip away the naive science fiction romance and force ourselves to look at the brutal, crushing physics of our so-called future homes. And we will not start this journey by looking up at the sky in wonder. Because the only places in this solar system that might briefly shield us from the relentless fury of the cosmos will force us to look down into the eternal, crushing, pitch-black abyss. When we talk about the future of human colonization within our own solar system, the public imagination usually gravitates almost immediately toward Mars. We picture a dusty, rust-colored, dead rock where we might eventually build reinforced glass domes and desperately try to grow potatoes in the poisoned, irradiated soil. But Mars is a cosmic graveyard. It is a world that has been violently stripped of its protective atmosphere and is continuously bombarded by lethal solar radiation. If we want a real, tangible chance at long-term survival, if we want access to massive quantities of liquid water, which is the most fundamental and non-negotiable ingredient for biological life, we have to look much further out into the dark. We have to look toward the massive moons orbiting the gas giants. Specifically, we are forced to look at Europa, the frozen, cracked moon of Jupiter. From a safe distance, Europa looks like a smooth, pristine marble of bright white and pale blue ice, glowing softly and deceptively in the dark void of space. It looks peaceful. It looks silent. It is a terrifying deception. The surface of Europa is undeniably one of the most violently hostile environments in the entire solar system. You cannot build a human colony on the surface of this moon. You cannot walk on it to admire the alien horizon. You cannot even stand on the ice for more than a few agonizing minutes. The reason for this is the monstrous neighbor it orbits. Jupiter is not just a massive, swirling planet of gas. It is a terrifying cosmic monster possessing a magnetic field that is roughly 20,000 times stronger than Earth's. This colossal magnetic field acts as a gigantic, invisible particle accelerator, trapping high-energy electrons and ions and violently whipping them around the planet at speeds approaching the speed of light. Europa sits directly in the middle of this deadly equatorial radiation belt. The icy surface is constantly, relentlessly bombarded by ionizing radiation so intensely powerful that it would completely fry the heavy circuitry of an unshielded robotic rover in a matter of hours. If a human astronaut were to naively step out onto the ice of Europa in a standard, modern spacesuit, the invisible radiation would penetrate their body and their suit instantaneously. It would systematically and brutally tear apart their cellular structure, shredding their delicate human DNA like wet paper in a hurricane. Within mere minutes, the acute radiation sickness would be irreversible and unimaginably painful, leading to a swift but horrific death. There is absolutely no possibility of building a surface habitat here. The ice itself visibly glows in the dark from the sheer, overwhelming amount of continuous radioactive bombardment. It is a frozen, heavily irradiated wasteland sitting permanently at minus 160 degrees Celsius. So, the ultimate question remains. How do we colonize a world that actively tries to murder us at a cellular level the exact moment we arrive? The answer is dark. We do not conquer the surface. We flee from it in absolute terror. The surface of Europa is not land to be claimed. It is merely a temporary, frozen shield. To survive here, humanity must perform a desperate, irreversible act of cosmic burial. The very moment our colony ships touch down on the glowing ice, we cannot unpack our belongings or celebrate our arrival. We must immediately deploy massive, incredibly powerful nuclear-powered thermal drills. We must aggressively melt our way through the highly radioactive ice crust, burrowing deeper and deeper into the dark, frantically leaving the deadly, glowing embrace of Jupiter behind us. We must drill straight down for 10, maybe 20 kilometers through solid, freezing, rock-hard ancient ice. And then, we will seal the hole behind us, forever cutting ourselves off from the stars, from the warmth of the sun, and from the rest of the universe above. We will willingly become a subterranean species, fleeing blindly into the cold, crushing depths of an alien world just to stay alive for one more day. But the true, unadulterated nightmare of Europa does not begin until you finally break through the very bottom of that colossal ice crust. Because when the heavy thermal drill finally pierces that very last layer of ancient ice, you do not fall into a vibrant, sunlit, welcoming ocean. You plunge violently into an alien abyss of unimaginable, horrifying proportions. Beneath the protective ice of Europa lies a global, subsurface ocean of liquid saltwater. It is estimated by astronomers to be up to 100 kilometers deep. That is more than 10 times deeper than the Mariana Trench, which is the absolute deepest, darkest point on Earth. And in this colossal alien ocean, there is no light. Ever. The warm sun is a distant, completely forgotten memory, permanently blocked by 20 kilometers of solid, impenetrable ice. The water is pitch black, far colder than any ocean on Earth, and pressurized to a degree that would instantaneously crush a modern, heavy military submarine like an empty, fragile soda can. This is the exact location where humanity must somehow build its new home. We will not be building our shining cities on mountaintops or along beautiful, breezy coastlines. We will be forced to build massive, pressurized submarine cities. These metallic habitats will either be clinging desperately to the jagged underside of the ice crust like terrified metallic barnacles, or they will be heavily anchored to the pitch-black ocean floor, a staggering 100 kilometers down in the dark. Imagine, for a moment, the sheer, suffocating psychological horror of living your entire life in one of these abyssal tombs. You wake up every single day inside a cramped steel box. There are absolutely no windows looking out onto a bright blue sky or a green pasture. There is no weather, no gentle wind, no soothing rain. There is only the eternal, oppressive, mind-breaking weight of the black water pressing relentlessly against the metallic hull of your city. There are millions of tons of pressure, constantly and aggressively testing the structural integrity of the thick titanium walls that are the only things separating you from an instant, violent, and gruesome death. The ambient, everyday noise of your entire life would be the low, terrifying, continuous groan of heavy metal straining against the crushing depths of the abyss. If a single mechanical seal fails, or if a microscopic, invisible fracture develops anywhere in the outer hull, there is no emergency evacuation. The freezing water would violently breach the city with the sheer kinetic force of an explosive charge. It would instantaneously crush the artificial atmosphere and pulverize every single fragile human body inside into a fine red mist before your brain could even register the pain. You are effectively living in a massive, floating sensory deprivation tank built for millions of people, entirely surrounded by an endless, freezing, dark ocean that you can never actually touch, never swim in, and never even see. But the crushing water pressure and the eternal, suffocating darkness are not the most terrifying aspects of our abyssal tombs. The true, primal horror lies in the very real possibility that we might not be alone in the dark. To power our massive subterranean cities, we obviously cannot rely on solar panels. The sun is entirely dead to us down here. We must heavily anchor our habitats to the ocean floor, desperately tapping into the violent geothermal energy of massive, boiling hydrothermal vents. These deep-sea chimneys violently spew superheated, mineral-rich black water into the freezing ocean. On Earth, these specific vents are known to be thriving oases of bizarre, alien-looking life. On Europa, isolated for billions of uninterrupted years under the ice, biological evolution would have taken a completely different, monstrous, and unpredictable path. Imagine looking out the reinforced, heavily riveted glass window of your underwater city. You shine a powerful, high-intensity searchlight out into the murky water, and the beam simply disappears into the endless, hungry void. But you know deep down that something is out there in the blackness. Creatures that have evolved exclusively in absolute darkness, surviving under crushing pressure for millennia. They do not have eyes, because the concept of light simply does not exist here. They do not navigate by sight, but by feeling the microscopic vibrations in the water around them, and a massive, humming, vibrating metal city full of millions of terrified human beings produces a massive amount of vibrations. You are living inside a giant tin can, constantly ringing a loud dinner bell in the absolute middle of an apex alien predator's territory. When the titanium hull groans at night, is it just the immense water pressure shifting? Or is it something colossal, something blind, pale, and hungry, deliberately brushing up against the metal walls, tasting the vibrations, and patiently trying to find a way inside? You will never truly know until the reinforced glass finally shatters. But perhaps you find the idea of a lightless, crushing water ocean far too claustrophobic to bear. Perhaps you desperately want to look at a moon that actually has a physical surface you can walk on, an atmosphere you can see, and vast lakes you can theoretically sail across. If that is the case, let us leave the crushing depths of Jupiter behind and travel much further out to Saturn. Let us look closely at Titan. Titan is incredibly unique. It is the only moon in our entire solar system with a thick, dense atmosphere. It has complex weather systems. It has heavy clouds, it has rain, it has flowing rivers, and it has vast, shimmering oceans. From the safety of space, it almost looks like a cold, hazy, orange version of Earth. But the exact moment you step out of your spaceship airlock, you immediately realize the horrific, undeniable truth of this alien world. The average surface temperature is a staggering -179 degrees Celsius. At this extreme, mind-numbing temperature, water is not a liquid. Water is as hard as solid granite. The towering mountains, the deep valleys, the very dirt beneath your heavy astronaut boots. It is all completely made of rock-hard, deep frozen water ice. So, what exactly is flowing in those alien rivers? What liquid makes up the vast, dark, oily oceans that completely cover the northern hemisphere of this moon? It is certainly not water. It is pure, liquid methane and ethane. You are looking directly at vast planetary oceans of pure, unadulterated natural gas. To even attempt to colonize Titan, we would have to construct our fragile human cities directly on the jagged, unforgiving shores of rock-hard, frozen water, perpetually looking out over vast, sloshing seas of highly toxic, liquid fuel. You are absolutely not swimming in this alien ocean. You are instantaneously freezing, solid, and slowly dissolving in it. And the immensely thick atmosphere, completely choked with dense nitrogen and methane smog, permanently blocks out the warmth and light of the sun. It casts the entire sprawling moon in a perpetual, sickly, heavy orange twilight. It is a deeply melancholic world of eternal, depressing dusk. But the absolute most terrifying and mind-bending aspect of Titan is the sheer, undeniable volatility of our daily existence there. You are literally living your entire life on a planetary scale bomb. Methane naturally requires oxygen to burn, and fortunately for the moon, Titan's thick atmosphere completely lacks it. But human cities implicitly require massive amounts of oxygen to survive. Every single pressurized habitat, every heavy metal airlock, and every vulnerable spacesuit is filled to the brim with the exact, precise ingredient needed to instantly turn this entire frozen moon into an apocalyptic, unstoppable fireball. Imagine the chronic, suffocating psychological anxiety of trying to sleep, raise a family, and simply exist on Titan. A single, catastrophic leak from a city's primary oxygen reserve tank, combined with just a single, tiny, stray yellow spark from a malfunctioning robotic surface rover, would not just cause a localized, manageable fire. It would violently and immediately ignite the very air outside the atmospheric breach. It would create a towering firestorm of unimaginable, unstoppable ferocity, greedily feeding on the endless dark oceans of liquid fuel that surround the colony. We would be stubbornly colonizing an apocalyptic powder keg, constantly, desperately praying that we never, ever, accidentally strike a match in the dark. But what if we collectively reject the hostile moons of our own solar system? What if we finally decide that the overwhelming gravitational proximity of Jupiter and Saturn is simply far too dangerous for our fragile species, and we push even further out into the deep. Seeking a true, distant exoplanet? Modern astronomy tells us of the existence of rogue planets. These are tragic, orphaned worlds that have been violently, gravitationally ejected from their warm host star systems, cursed to blindly wander the vast, empty galactic void in absolute, freezing, eternal darkness. Some overly optimistic scientists actually believe we could successfully colonize them, theoretically using their internal, dying geothermal heat to survive deep underground, hidden beneath kilometers of thick, black ice. Imagine the sheer, incomprehensible, mind-shattering psychological isolation of living your life on a dead rogue planet. It is a completely silent world without a sun, without a comforting day or a restful night, completely devoid of shifting seasons or passing years. You are entirely adrift in the great, terrifying nothingness that exists between the stars, permanently surrounded by a cosmic silence so heavy and profound that it would inevitably drive the fragile human mind into absolute, screaming madness. You are effectively sailing a massive, metallic ghost ship through the ultimate cosmic graveyard, forever and irreversibly disconnected from the rest of the living universe, desperately carrying the very last, fading remnants of Earth into the absolute, unforgiving dark. Look closely back at the horrific choices we have laid out before you today, fleeing in absolute terror into the crushing, lightless, predator-filled abyss of Europa, desperately hiding from the relentless radioactive fury of Jupiter, walking tentatively on the jagged, frozen water shores of Titan, breathing nervously recycled artificial air on a toxic moon that could violently detonate with a single, microscopic stray spark, or drifting endlessly, silently, and hopelessly on a dead, frozen rogue planet in the void. This is absolutely not the grand, romantic frontier of human exploration that we were promised. This is the ultimate, tragic, biological surrender of our species. To merely survive out here in the brutal cosmos, we must completely abandon the very fundamental things that make us uniquely human. Out here in the crushing dark, the warm sun is nothing more than a faded, unbelievable myth. When the second, third, and fourth generations of human beings are eventually born in the groaning submarine cities of Europa, they will have never, ever seen a bright blue sky. They will have never felt a gentle, warm breeze against their faces. Their entire claustrophobic existence will be strictly confined to a damp, rusting metal hallway, permanently surrounded by the terrifying, monstrous groans of the unseen abyss. But life finds a way, and they will adapt to the nightmare. Their fragile human bodies will aggressively change and mutate over the centuries. Their eyes will grow unnaturally, terrifyingly large to desperately capture the dim, fading artificial lights. Their skin will gradually turn completely pale and ghostly translucent, and their bone structures will radically alter to endure the strange, artificial gravity and confined spaces. Within just a few short centuries, the strange, tragic beings living in these abyssal, metallic tombs will no longer be recognizable as Homo sapiens. They will slowly, inevitably become something entirely else. Something blind, deeply pale, and perfectly adapted to the crushing, eternal dark. We will have technically survived the fiery death of Earth, yes. But we will have completely, irreversibly killed our humanity in the brutal process. We are desperately, blindly searching the cosmos for a backup Earth. But the vast, ancient universe is sending us a very clear, very cold, and very undeniable message. There is no backup planet. The cosmos is a highly hostile, completely unforgiving, and deeply apathetic void that actively seeks to quickly eradicate the tiny, fragile spark of biological life. Every single planet we look at through our telescopes is a uniquely designed, perfectly lethal slaughterhouse, just patiently waiting to completely consume us. We are simply not meant to ever leave the safety of the cradle, and if we forcefully push our way out into the dark, the universe will undoubtedly make us pay the ultimate, horrific price. Tonight, as you step outside and feel the gentle warmth of the sun on your skin, or simply look up at the open, peaceful blue sky, I want you to truly remember that it is a remarkably rare, incredibly fleeting cosmic privilege. You are currently standing on the one and only known sanctuary, in an infinite, sprawling ocean of absolute death. If you found yourself nervously staring into the terrifying cosmic abyss with us today, hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a deep comment down below telling us which specific nightmare you would ultimately choose if forced. The crushing, utterly pitch black, and predator-filled alien oceans of Europa, or the highly explosive, eternally freezing, and toxic orange twilight of Titan. And join us next time as we dive even deeper into the profound psychological and cosmic horrors that the silent universe is actively hiding from us all. Until then, keep watching the skies above you. But always remember, the skies are cold, and they are watching back.